guys and gals. This is the moment a lot of you have been complaining about, that why you keep putting this off and putting this off. And again, it's because I've tried to give you the best information and get you properly prepared for learning how to play French embouchure and learning how to correctly, because I don't want you to fail. I mean, I almost failed because I had, basically no instruction. And unfortunately, a lot of the teachers that I went to that I hoped would help me learn to play French embouchure and learn to play it more correctly, they really didn't do that. In fact, I got misled several times, and it took me down roads that I struggled with for years. Because there's one thing I did with my teachers is I tried to do what they asked me to do. And so that once I had done those things, when I finished the whole process and devoted myself to it, once I quit, I understood what was right with it and what was wrong with it and why it was inadequate or why it was weak in this area or that area. But you only know that when a teacher teaches you things, usually, unless they're just downright obviously stupid. You only know that unless you devote yourself and really give yourself to it and give it a good old college try. Okay. So now in this video, we're going to talk about how to approach making the sound playing French embouchure. Now, one of the first things that I do, and I'm going to approach this not so much like I'm teaching a professional player, but more like I'm teaching maybe a young player who has some pretty bad habits. I'm just assuming that professional players have no bad habits at all in terms of tone production. Okay, so one of the things I found when my students were biting and doing all kinds of bad stuff behind their nose, choking the sound off and all this, is I found there was a lot of tension in their body. But I also found that they were completely closing the reed off with upward jaw pressure. Now remember, biting is not this. Biting is that. It's bringing the jaw up into the mouthpiece, into the reed, pressing into the reed. And so I would ask my students to say, look, we're going to start new, and I'm going to ask you to learn to play French embouchure because I want to completely disorient you from what you're doing. Because if you stay playing with your teeth on a mouthpiece, single lip, you're going to be lapsing back into those old habits. But if I disorient you completely, then you've got no reference point. You just sort of do what I ask you to do. Fine. So I'd say let's start by pretending the clarinet's our friend, not our enemy. And therefore, are we relaxed around our friends or are we tense? Okay? We're relaxed. So let's hold the clarinet and just be relaxed and be friends with it. So they would sort of look at me roll their eyes and okay. So they take the clarinet. I'd say, now, what I'd like you to do is I'd just like you to take the mouthpiece into your mouth, and I'd just like you to put air through the horn. And honest engine, this is what I would see them do. They would look at me like, what's going on here? All I asked them to do was put air through the horn. What did they do? They couldn't put air through the horn because they were clamping down the reeds so hard. They didn't even realize it. And then they had to fight their jaw down and fight the openings just to make a little noise. That's how bad it usually is. Well, what you have to do with people who've been used to using a lot of upward jaw pressure is you have to disorient them, and you have to give them another approach, another way of making the sound, a completely different way, as a matter of fact. So double lip's not just taking your upper lip under, it's a completely different way of making the sound. It's a complete reorientation of the face muscles, then the juxtaposition of the face to the horn. So then I would ask them, I would say, look, I want you to just take the barrel and the mouthpiece, and I just want you to take the tip of the reed and the mouthpiece in both lips, but forget about it being a clarinet. I want you to think of it as a soda straw, okay? And of course what you do, you sip soda through a soda straw, so I want you to draw air through the mouthpiece, and that pulls everything back, like that. And so once I would get them to be successful, okay, this is soda straw, it's a big soda straw, and okay, I'm sipping soda through it. So now what I want you to do is keep this structure, pull back here, but blow through the mouthpiece and the reed, but blow gently, because I want to hear air. I don't want to hear. I want to hear air freely going through the mouthpiece and the reed. And again, they just have a small amount of mouthpiece in their mouth. And then after that was successful, they got used to the idea that they don't have to clamp down. Then I would ask them, okay, I want you to take just the mouthpiece and the barrel again, and I want you to blow more air. And at the same time, I want you to pick the barrel and mouthpiece up, and I want you to snug the mouthpiece and reed against your lips. But let your lips be firm, okay? Don't give in to them. Resist the snugging. But it's not a lot. It's just gentle, okay? So, and at the same time, as the mouthpiece and reed go up, the tongue goes up. So you're going from O-E. So what happens is that the tongue controls the air speed and air direction. And of course, then the hand on the barrel is controlling the degree of snugness or the degree of embouchure pressure on the reed mouthpiece wedge. And you're adding pressure to the reed mouthpiece wedge without closing the jaw. So the teeth stay apart. Everything is nice and dressy here, and you're bringing the horn to the face. So that's the next step. And then I get the student to repeat those things several times, just making the sound by increasing the air slightly and bringing the barrel and the mouthpiece, snugging it, and you're not ending up with a lot of reed and mouthpiece in your mouth. It's like about going from this far to maybe that far. There's not much. With the air increase and tongue pressure, the tongue pressure going up also increases the air speed, because the tongue toward the roof produces a venturi. I have all this outlined in the Educator's Guide to the Clarinet. And then when you lift and bring the reed and mouthpiece, snug it against the lips that are firm, because of the wedge of the mouthpiece, you're actually adding pressure to the reed mouthpiece wedge, but you're not clamping the reed off. In fact, the tip of the reed is actually moving slightly further away from the point of greatest stress or greatest pressure on the reed mouthpiece wedge with the lips. So then that's going to produce a sound with the tongue up and lifting up here. That's going to produce a higher pitch. So you're doing all this with just the barrel and the mouthpiece. Mind reed, of course. Now, if your reed is well balanced, and that's what we've all been struggling for if you've done your homework here, you'll be able to accomplish these things easily. Really very, very important for you to be able to put air through the horn without any noticeable constriction, either when you feel here or what you hear here. Pinching off the reed means you're still closing the jaw. The jaw has to stay down. The muscles are back, like you're sipping soda. Or I've always said like I'm sipping a chocolate malt and I get, like one of those balls of malt that just didn't get mixed up really well and it gets stuck in the straw. And so I'm going, really trying to get that out because, that stuff is good. Anyway, okay. Then after that, then practice just a sustained tone. I mean, you can do it on an open G or low C or just a sustained tone. And so that you feel a consistent lifting or snugging of the reed mouthpiece wedge against the lips. And you feel the tongue up there, in that position, speeding up the air, and bringing the sound up into a really nice, clear focus. So then after you play sustained tones, then I recommend that you work on slow scales, maybe some 12ths, depend on how you feel and how the progress is going. Now, also, I don't want you to neglect, I've got some parchment paper here that I use on my teeth, and I play extremely comfortably. And one thing I don't want you to do is I don't want you to cut up your lips and set yourself and set your practice back 2 or 3 days or more. It should not be painful to play the way I'm talking about if your reed is balanced. Now, if your reed is not balanced, you're not going to get a clear sound, and that means that you're going to have to close the jaw at a certain point to clarify the sound. You shouldn't have to do that. Even if the reed is a little resistant, if it's well balanced, to the degree it's going to produce a sound, it's going to produce a clear sound. So make sure that your reed is well balanced and you'll be able to play comfortably, and make sure you put something to protect your teeth, to protect your lips, okay? The other thing is not to play too much. Mr. Opperman, when I was working on French Embouchure with him, he would say, don't play more than a minute. And I said, play more than a minute? He said, when you think about it, most orchestral excerpts don't last much more than a minute, not even a minute. And I thought, Yeah, that's probably right. And the rest of the time in the orchestra, you can hide because nobody can hear the clarinets anyway. So, but anyway, the whole idea here is that you rest frequently. He would have me playing a minute and resting 2 minutes. Playing a minute, resting 2 minutes. You want to try that for a while? I did that all summer. And but it made a difference. It made me able to play my master's recital completely, French Embouchure, the next year. So, but the idea is don't overtax yourself, and you're going to be tempted. If things are going well, you just want to keep on playing. Believe me, I know how that is. And then you'll end up, if you have your teeth on the mouthpiece, you'll end up cutting yourself. Because even when you're snugging in, you're going to be putting pressure on the teeth and the lips. And many of you, I'm sure, probably already use something on your lower teeth. So anyway, make sure that you do that. Don't overplay. Rest frequently. Play long tones. And what you'll find is if you play a minute and you rest, you find that the lip muscles themselves, even when your lip muscles are babies, you find they recover really quickly. So, a minute on or a minute off, whatever, you have to judge that for yourself. But you'll find you get really quick recovery with the lips. And after several days of this, just working this way, try to practice this way, say for maybe 15 minutes or half an hour each day, and working on long tones. Most of you neglect long tones. You don't play long tones anyway. So don't neglect playing those long tones and slow tones, and especially playing overtones, like starting with a low G and something like maybe this. and so forth. So the other thing that to help avoid biting, this clamping, putting pressure, is always remember that you form it first. This is a strong principle. Form it first. So your embouchure is formed first. And the next thing is that always bring the horn to the face, that is, snugging. By the way, a lot of people call this is, almost everybody calls it, this is thumb rest. I never saw anybody resting their thumb there, okay? That's kind of a dumb idea. This is what I call a thumb support. And you're always bringing the mouthpiece reed wedge to the face. If you feel like you need a little more control, then bring the horn to the face, never the face to the horn. When you bring the face to the horn, you're going to be biting. You're going to be clamping down on the reed. You don't want to do that. And if you feel the need to bite, do your side-to-side test on the reeds, because the reed's probably not balanced well. Because unbalanced reeds will shipwreck your efforts. And let me make one more, in closing, let me make one more remark about unbalanced reeds. I don't know much about stereo equipment, but I had a friend, in fact, I taught a friend clarinet, a guy who became a good friend. And he was, for a while, he sold stereo equipment. And so he was into high-end equipment. He told me some funny stories about that. But one of the things I learned is about when they're setting up a stereo setup is the speakers, the two speakers, and because they didn't have quadraphonic sound or whatever they got now, the two speakers would have to be in phase. And if the speakers are out of phase, it not only sounds horrible because the waves are canceling each other out, it also diminishes the resonance and diminishes the depth of the sound. And without turning the volume up whatsoever, when you bring those speakers in phase, then the sound actually gets fuller and richer and louder. And that's what a balanced reed does as opposed to an unbalanced reed, because essentially what you have in the left ear and right ear is you have basically two little speakers, and they're producing their own sounds, their own resistances, their own colors, their own responses, their own flexibilities on that left and right rail. And balancing the reeds is bringing those ears from tip to back so that they produce as much as possible the same resistance, the same response, the same resonance decay, the same flexibility. So then the reed is in phase, and when the reed goes into phase as opposed to undulating and twisting back and forth, so that the surface of the reed is not fighting itself, the reed blows freer, but all of a sudden the sound gets more resonant, it gets deeper, it gets clearer, and it gets more beautiful. What is it? Who's the poet wrote, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever"? Well, a well-balanced reed is a joy forever, too. It's a joy to play, and it's a joy to listen to. It's be very comfortable. So if you find yourself being uncomfortable, check your reed balance. You're not going to be successful. It's going to shipwreck you. So this is the discipline that you have to really engage in order to successfully play French embouchure and to play it with comfort and play it without pain. So as I'm wont to say, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And what I'd like you to do is I'm going to put our email address, our business email address, and put the note that's going specifically to me because Ted will get it unless you notate that. Just put that in. And I'd like you to give me your questions. Send me your questions. And then also tell me how you're doing. Tell me if you're getting frustrated. Telling me whatever you feel or what you think about what you're accomplishing. But I'd say don't rush. Do things correctly. Don't overplay. Rest frequently. Make sure that you protect your lips from being cut by the teeth. Don't bite. Horn to the face. Never face to the horn. Form it first, then bring the horn up to you. All those are kind of maxims that are very helpful things. And above all else, listen to the results that you're getting. Listen to how the air feels when everything feels balanced and in that equilibrium of control. That is such a great feeling. It's like the feeling of hitting a baseball when you hit it really right, you know. So, and you try to replicate that. And again, don't try to get too adventurous. The main thing is to gain strength, to gain confidence, and develop a whole new habit of interfacing with the clarinet. And I think that's about it. So if you have any questions, put them down below. And please subscribe, okay? We're almost close to 5,000 subscribers. And, man, that's really cool. I really appreciate that. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the subscriptions and all that, because I'm really trying to give you guys the best information that I can to really help you play the clarinet more artistically and more beautifully. And I'm offering this to you because I don't want you to struggle like I did. And so anything I can do to help you love playing the clarinet more and play it with more freedom and more happiness and more sense of accomplishment and artistry, then I feel like that's my whole reward for doing this. So, okay, that's it. That's all. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.